Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever in the world you're joining us from, welcome. My name is Caitlin, and I'm here to talk to you about how to get people to answer your calls. A field guide to navigating stir-shaken, spam, caller ID, all that good stuff or bad stuff, depending on the subject matter that we're talking about. But first, a little bit more about myself and about Bandwidth. I'm, again, Caitlin Long, and I'm a director of product management here at Bandwidth and oversee our contact center or CCaaS customers, ensuring that what we're doing with our roadmap and development initiatives are serving those customers strategically in the market. And Bandwidth, if you're not familiar, we are a cloud-native carrier. We provide SIP trunking services, messaging services, emergency services across the globe and deliver that with our global network. And one of the coolest things about Bandwidth is the fact that we have this CPaaS layer that sits on top of our network, so that if you are an enterprise or a product manager, a platform owner, you can actually reach down directly into our network and pull out those services via an API. So naturally, as a communication service provider and a CPaaS platform, we are directly invested in whether or not customers do pick up the phone. And unfortunately, what we're facing today is a trust issue. 8 in 10 Americans say they will not pick up the phone when an unknown number is calling. Just let that sink in. If your customers, 80% of your customers, automatically are not answering your calls, what does that mean for your business? This means loss of revenue. This means a loss in connectivity with your customers for product insights and surveys. This means not being able to reach consumers with relevant offers. And all of these things become problematic when we're trying to do business. So what can be done? That's really the question. Consumers aren't answering your calls. What can you do? Starting out at the macro level, the very first thing is legislation. Right? So write a letter to your congressman. Well, fortunately, you don't necessarily have to do this because enough people have to where the government has passed the Trace Act and subsequently Stir Shaken. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this, in a nutshell, Stir is the piece of Stir Shaken that provides standards so service providers are able to mark phone calls as spam or spam likely. And Shaken are the rules by which those providers then treat those calls on their network. Unfortunately, this is not a one-time fix-all kind of situation. Trust takes time to build back. And so, why are your calls still going to voicemail? It's because that trust issue still exists. So what else can you do? Well, beauty is often in the simplicity of things. So I would start with checking to ensure that you have caller ID enabled. This takes a couple of different formats, whether it's CNAM or LIDB services. So I would just encourage you to speak to your service provider about whether or not you have these enabled on your numbers. Next, I want to talk to you about meeting people where they are. So if calls aren't working, if you can't get in touch with people, try texting them. If you consider yourself a consumer and ask yourself how you're interacting with the businesses that you actually value communicating with, many of you are probably sitting there thinking like, yeah, I would probably rather get a text message, or yeah, a text message is going to get my attention faster. In fact, 95% of SMSs are open within 3 minutes of delivery. So that alone shows you it's getting attention, and it's often a preferred modality or message of communication when you compare it against voice, depending on the use case. Now, this is just something that it will never replace the ability to actually speak to your customers and have a conversation verbally with your customers. However, it's definitely something that you should look at integrating into your contact strategy with your customers. Email, web chat. Email, we've come full circle on, right? Like there was a lot of noise. We moved away from it, move back to it. Like it is a good, valuable method of communication. So definitely evaluate where those different modalities are in your strategy. And then finally, what I want to leave you with is consulting an industry expert. Bandwidth is an FCC regulated entity right here in North America. Internationally, it gets even more complex. And as you navigate the global challenges of expanding your enterprise or your product or platform, we have made telecom our business and communications our business, so you don't necessarily have to. And so whether you're trying to figure out how to navigate Stir Shaken, what it even means for your business, or looking at turning on caller ID, making sure you have it turned on, potentially integrating a messaging strategy, we can help with that. And then finally, new and emerging technologies. A lot of what I've said today, you may be thinking, well, that's old hat. We've talked about that. What else is there? Well, Bandwidth is actively involved in building out branded calling and reputation services portfolios. And so what that is, branded calling, when you're trying to add rich data or a more brand-centric experience to your advertising or marketing campaigns, for example, to present that brand to your customers, or reputation services, actively mitigating the brand of your number across the different industry entities and regulators that touch it. Those pieces and parts of the solution are new and emerging, and we'd love to talk to you about it. We'd love to talk to you about how maybe that could fit with your business today, or what that could do for your business tomorrow. Thanks so much.